There will be no more. Welcome to the Last Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Spencer Chandler, here with my co host, as always, Christian Miller. How's it going?
I'm happy to actually talk about Star Wars Visions now, but just in general,
Yes.
I'm good. It's fun to do podcasts. It's fun to talk with friends. So
It's also fun to
good
finally
to be
see
here.
each other after like 2 months, like in person, because we got to spend
Yeah.
the weekend with each other, which is pretty awesome. So we had a good time. And we also like most of the time when Christian and I actually get together, we try not to talk podcast and business stuff and just try to enjoy stuff. But then half the time I was there, we ended up talking business and podcast stuff. So it is what it is. But other than that, I have a cool story because I went to the poster museum um, about 5 minutes from my college campus. And I was kind of going, I wasn't going in to spend money. I was kind of taking my brother there because he was visiting around the town we were in. Until I walked in and they had an entire room dedicated to just Star Wars posters. And as soon as I walked in the room, I knew I was going to spend like $100 like in this room, like because there were just so many crazy posters. So I actually only ended up spending, I think, $75, but I did buy like a 5 foot by 5 foot tapestry of the Mandalorian holding Baby Yoda. So that was pretty awesome. And I also bought a poster of Ahsoka and Grogu from the Mandalorian. So that'll be in my background for like the visual people who are watching on YouTube, I guess next week probably. But and then I also bought, I guess only Christian can see this, but I bought this cool little like metalwork piece painting that has Boba Fett, Bosk, Dengar, who we talked about last week. Cool little, I thought that was funny. IG-88, and then I forget the names of the two other guys. I think that's the dude
So
from the Mandalorian, the
no,
droid, or he's same droid type though, right?
that droid is Forlom, and his droid is like in the same way that C-3PO is a human looking droid.
Oh,
That droid is the species of the alien to the right of him, and that alien's name is Succus.
cool. Look at Christian knowing more about bounty hunters than I do. I got it because it looked cool.
Well, I had the I had some sort of like figure set that had that that crew of characters. Plus, I played
Oh,
Lego Star Wars a lot, so I just
oh, sick. But yeah,
remembered those names.
so I only spent that much, but then my brother also bought an Empire tapestry. So it's just a tapestry with the Empire logo on it, and it looks really sick. Um, but yeah, I spent lots of Star Wars money this week. What was your do you have any fun Star Wars stuff from this week?
Well, I went to the comic book shop in our
Of
hometown,
of course you did.
got these Daredevil comics.
Dude,
But
that's sick.
as I was waiting for the store manager to like look up the other sort of things in the series that I could like have on back order and like get purchased later because they were out of stock on some of the stuff. I saw in this sort of like crate or like basket a bunch of like little trinket merchandising, and these are
Oh,
collector's
whoa.
stickers from the era of the Phantom Menace. Uh,
Whoa.
like
Okay,
sold in
so
like 1999. One's got Sebulba, one's got Anakin, and one's got Anakin's pod racer.
how much did you pay for each of those?
$2 including tax.
That's pretty good. That's solid. I would think that since they're like originals, they would charge more than $2. But yeah, that's a good haul. I never, that's another place, that comic book shop that you went in. That's another place where every time I go in, I go, I'm not going to spend any money. And then I spend so much money.
Yeah.
um, I'll walk out of there with like, I think I walked out of there one time with the entire Rise of Kylo Ren series after saying I wasn't going to spend money. So it is what it is. But yeah, another cool thing is that this week, unless like this recording gets like the visuals get trashed. This is the first time that we will have visuals on our YouTube channel. So hello everyone, if you're watching this on YouTube, you get to see our beautiful faces. And if you're listening on, any audio source, that's pretty cool too. We appreciate all of you who listen to this show. But yes, like we said at the beginning of this episode, this week we get to talk about the new Star Wars show, Star Wars Visions, which is on Disney Plus. I'm very excited to talk about it. We were kind of hyping it up for a long time. I think out of all of the new shows that got announced earlier in the year, this was probably the one that I was most excited for. If not like Kenobi or Ahsoka, but out of all like the animated stuff we were getting, this is definitely like top tier. So yeah. I guess the first question, Christian, is how did you watch this? Because that's something we always talk about with these shows, is how you watched it.
I watched it the day it came out. The first 2 episodes I watched right before my math class started. I was like in a classroom building, and then the rest I watched in my apartment that later that night, and I just sort of went all the way through them.
Yeah.
It's very fun.
So
How about you?
I didn't expect to binge them all in one day. I kind of went into it like, okay, I'm gonna watch a few of them, and I'm gonna go do stuff, and I'm gonna watch a few. I literally watched all 9 of them in one sitting. I sat down, I watched all 9 of them, and I watched the first 2 just regularly, and then once I got to episode 3, I changed it to Japanese and watched it with English subtitles.
You said after 3 you did?
After the second one, starting on episode 3. So I watched 3 through 9 in Japanese with English subtitles. And I also went back and obviously watched episode 1, The Duel, in Japanese, because it was the most Japanese of all of them. So I was like, I have to go watch this one. So yeah, the only one I've not seen in Japanese is Tatooine Rhapsody, which is the one where they so yeah,
we'll go into it, but that's one of the ones that benefits the most from being in Japanese, I think.
Really? Okay, so you
Yeah.
did watch them in Japanese?
Yeah, the first time I did it in English, and then just the other day I just went through it again in Japanese.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back and watch them all in English. Just because like I want to see what differs. The reason that I switched to Japanese is because of Tatooine Rhapsody, and listening to it, like it has that problem that most animes have, like most foreign animes have, in which case most of it doesn't sound super great in English. Like just like the way they speak, it doesn't translate well into English, especially when it's, made by a Japanese company. It makes sense in Japanese, but then they like use wording that's a little weird in English. So Tatooine Rhapsody was pretty bad about that. So that's why I switched to Japanese, just so it wasn't like cringy. So I want to go back and watch them in English. So we'll see if I manage to do that.
So before we get into the duel or jewel, sort of like the Dune June debate.
Yeah.
Is it pronounced the duel or the jewel? What are your overall thoughts of the show? What do you think it does very well, and how does it sort of place with all this I hate the word content, but all the Star Wars content is coming out?
Yeah. Okay. So I loved going into this thinking, oh, this isn't canon. I can just sit back and watch it, and I don't have to like critically be like, all right, this is connected to this, and this would affect this. Like I don't have to think about that because it's not canon. Each one's individual. I just go into each one with a blank slate, and it feels very refreshing. Also to just watch what's like just tiny little stories. Like they're not like this huge like galaxy wide for the most part like stories. They're just like these little individual accounts of certain people, and they also don't focus just on the Jedi. which I like, and they don't just focus on people who have been strong in the force for a long time or just like it's a very wide range of people. And so it just felt refreshing, and it was nice to not have the same thing over and over again for every episode. Like every episode felt different and new, and just also the animation style helped it feel different in every episode because every episode was animated differently. So yeah, I loved it a lot, and it's definitely gonna watch it again fairly soon.
Yeah. For me, just to touch briefly on the subtitle thing again, like it's like the the episodes that weren't good in English became pretty good in Japanese, and
Mhm.
then like the ones that were good in English got a little bit better. I think part of it is that like you scrutinize dialogue less when it's not in your native language.
Yeah.
Um, and you focus it helps you focus more on the visuals. But but beyond that, I love the kind of Star Wars stories that are not just rehashing the things that make Star Wars what it is, like the messages and the themes and the aesthetics. Like when you can just sort of extend and go beyond and like sort of reach into the crate of like whether it's Kurosawa or whatever kind of thing that sort of has made Star Wars what it is, and you can interpret that for yourself and like show what it means to you rather than like thinking that this is what fans want and like just repeating the same stuff. That's why I love The Last Jedi. Um, that's why I don't like Rise of Skywalker. I don't want to
Yeah.
like make this into a binary thing. There's plenty of good stuff in Rise of Skywalker as well, but like uh it's it's how I've come to contextualize my fandom of Star Wars is stuff that sort of goes beyond. And so this show is definitely my sort of preference for how Star Wars is done. And the stories are they're sort of an ambiguous sort of thing with canon for me.
Yeah.
Some of it you can like feel like it could easily fit into the story.
Mhm.
Some of it maybe feels more just like a remixing of the stories. It's not the takeaway is that it doesn't seek out to fill a blank spot in the canon, but rather just to exist on its own. Because if you like Star Wars, you are likely to like one of these stories because it connects emotionally and spiritually.
Yeah. So before we go like to the episodes in order, what was your favorite episode and what was your least favorite episode? I think that'll be interesting because I think that we may have the same favorite, but I think we'll have different least favorites.
Um, it's hard because I think subconsciously, again, this is often discussed. I I just my brain guides myself to like pick something that's not obvious
Mm-hmm.
when like it could be overworking it to where it's not even that true. But I do think that my favorite episode is TOB1.
Okay.
And I think there are plenty of reasons why I love like The Village Bride and The Ninth Jedi, um, for being for feeling like it could be their own like Star Wars trilogies in a way. Like they sort of resemble, I guess, some of the grand sort of scale of it, that we've come to love. But ultimately, I think what really gave me the most joy was TOB1.
Yeah. All right. So my favorite was the duel. It may just be because it was the first one, but I also just love the style of it. It reminded me so much of Seven Samurai, but with only one dude. It's like it definitely, and it doesn't help that we just did like we watched two of Akira Kurosawa's movies, but that one is definitely like Akira Kurosawa in a cartoon was this. Like,
I think that's cool though. I think you might not have picked it a year ago,
Probably
you know?
not. I think because of how much we've gone into that, like I think that it's caused me to like that one. Closely followed by the Ninth Jedi. I really like that one. The twist in that one, I like honestly didn't see coming. So either of them, the twist of him being the robot and the twist of, them all being Sith. Um, okay. My least favorite is I'm gonna totally butcher how to pronounce this, but Akakiri, the last one. I
Hmm.
wasn't a huge fan of that one. For one, I wasn't a huge fan of the animation style, and also I just like I don't know if I just didn't really get what was going on, but it just didn't seem that interesting to me. And then I didn't like TOB1 because I couldn't get over the fact that I literally thought it was just an episode of Steven Universe because it has the same animation style almost. Because literally the creator, his creator looks exactly like Steven Universe's dad. And if you don't
Mm,
believe me and you're listening, just go look up Steven Universe's dad and then the Jedi from TOB1, and they're the same. They're the exact same.
yeah.
So yeah, honestly, that one was just because animation style. But like I said, it's not my least favorite. It's just like I also think it doesn't help that pretty much every episode is just so good of this show.
Yeah.
Like it was so hard to pick between the duel, the Ninth Jedi, and the Elder because like those episodes were just like going hard, all of them.
For me, my least favorite, um, it was a strong dislike at first watch, but it gradually went up to I respect it. It's just not ultimately for me. And that's the twins.
Okay.
Um, because I think at first I was doing some of the canon gymnastics of like, this is so confusing.
Yeah.
And then eventually like understanding that this is like its own thing and this could be like a folklore within the Star Wars universe. But like, yeah, the dialogue was very hard to enjoy in English.
Yeah. That was like that.
Um,
Okay. I actually switched like 5 minutes into that episode. Like 5 minutes into that episode is when I switched. So like I was like, oh, this is really bad. And so I switched it to Japanese and I was like, oh, this is better. This is better.
yeah, and I think I think the animation like of that episode is very impressive, and
Oh yeah.
it's a great way of visualizing the themes that it's talking about. I think it's by default. It's just like my least favorite one.
All right. Well, why don't we just go through these episodes a little bit? We'll start with episode one, the duel. Um, not because I'm biased, but like I said, I love this episode just because of how much Akira Kurosawa is represented in this. We talk about how much Star Wars is like a samurai story, and then they literally take this and just make it a samurai story. Um, Also, I've always been a fan of like cool lightsabers. Like I really like Kylo's lightsaber because it's different. Um, but I love the Sith's like her umbrella lightsaber. I love that. I don't know why. Like at first I kind of thought it was dumb. And then she started fighting with it, and I was like, this is like the coolest thing ever. Um, and the fact that it's like, I don't know, we've never seen anything like that before. And even how simple it is of um I guess he doesn't have a name, but like the main guy from this, the fact that his lightsaber is like a katana in a sheath, and to ignite it, he just pulls it out, and it's always ignited until he puts it back. Like that's just
Yeah.
really cool. It's just a sword basically at that point, and he uses it exactly like he would use a katana. He doesn't use it any other way, and I just think that's cool. So yeah, lightsaber techniques in that I love animation style and just how much it is like Seven Samurai. I can't get over.
Yeah, it's in black and white, but you see the red lightsabers. You see the. Do you see green laser bolts,
Yes,
or is it
everything,
only
the laser bolts, lights on the ship, and their lightsabers are all in color.
were the lasers in green and red, or just red? I
They were in
forget.
green and yellow.
Gotcha. Yeah, and then like it's black and white. And then there's like this sort of film grain put onto it. And
Yeah. I
do you think the
also
characters were those characters in CGI with like 2D embellishments, or what did
I
you
don't
gather from that?
I don't know. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it, but at first glance, it looks to be all hand drawn, which would be like ridiculously hard to do. But when cartoons were made like that, like that's how they were done. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's all hand drawn, but
I think
the
quite a bit of it is,
but it
some of
has
it
to be
is a
CG
3D model.
because I think at least all of the lightsabers and stuff are all CG because they're doing some crazy stuff. But yeah, I'd have to go back and watch it honestly. What do you think about the stormtrooper designs?
Yeah, I ever since the Force Awakens art book, I'm really interested in like all these like different designs that they've thrown out of like prototype stormtrooper armor, and like what it looks like if it's like assembled or disassembled. And so this, and like it's carried through in like Star Wars Resistance, where some characters have like an assortment of like rebel and stormtrooper armor just like sort of scavenged together. It very much felt like that. And as a follower of the art books, it feels really cool whenever sort of, I don't know, it's like these little gems that like they might not make it into one story, but they are brought into other stories. I've always talked about this whenever I have an
Yeah,
excuse to.
I mean,
Um, so seeing like first order stormtrooper helmets, but on like this like bandit group of characters,
yeah. I
seeing like a
also like
mix of like imperial and first order, and yeah, I love that sort of
uh,
assortment of looks.
I also love their hair that's in ponytails that are coming out the back of the helmet. Like that's really funny because that's a very much a Japanese style thing of just always having your hair up, like long hair, and they still kept it. Like, they didn't like just closing their helmets. I just thought that was a cool little little beat there. Oh shoot. Okay. I want to shout out my roommate real quick. My roommate just bought me a cookout milkshake and left it at my door. I'm totally leaving this in the podcast too because I just want to shout him out real quick. So let me grab that. Thank you, Colby.
Thank you, Colby.
Yeah, big shout out to my roommate right there. Give me that strawberry milkshake from Cookout. That's where it's at. Anyway, where were we? Anything else to say about the first episode?
The story. We got to talk about the story.
We do talk about the story, I guess, and not just why we love it so much. What did you think about the story? Because, like I said, I think it's Seven Samurai if there was only one of them.
Uh, I always, I don't know. It's okay. Well, first off, we can talk about some of the things that are like quintessential Star Wars, but just at a different angle. We've got a wanderer samurai
Mhm.
sort of character, a Jedi who is, we've seen that in Jedi characters and The Mandalorian. Uh, Villages being attacked by bandits, always fun to see.
Mhm.
Big duels, sprawling duels with epic music. The music even like sort of sounded like Battle of the Heroes at some point
Yeah.
on the river. And ooh, it's even got the whole thing of like a war on two fronts, you know, Jedi over here, blasters over here. Um, Smart droids. What do you think about the droid in the straw hat?
I love that he's wearing a straw hat, first off. That's really funny. Um, he's got big R2D2 energy. Like literally, if you strap rockets to R2D2 and tell me that that's who that is, I would believe you. Um, he's just as cocky and you know, I don't want to say stuck up, but like is he's got a personality for a droid who
Yeah.
can't speak at all. So Yeah, I loved
Yeah.
him. I love the way that he was used, and I love the have him fixed before the pot boils. I didn't
Yes.
understand why. And then when he can hear that the pot is boiling, and that's how he knows to deploy the droid. Like that's so cool. That's such a
Yeah.
thing. Like that wouldn't be in normal Star Wars. That would not be in well, not normal, but what we see as Star Wars. Like that would only be done whenever you're just taking this back to like bare bones like this. I mean, there may be something else to the same extent, but never just like pot of boiling tea. Whenever this pot boils, have him done. Like that's I
Yeah.
love that.
It feels so simple. A lot of action in like Star Wars movies now has like been so influenced by the past like 20 years of action movies. So like
Mhm.
everything's like very laid out logically of like we have a mission, we have to do this objective, these things need to be accomplished.
Yeah.
Whereas this was just like, hey, we think tea boiling is suspenseful, so we're gonna have this whistling tea kettle. That's cool. And
And we
then when the
okay,
plot needs it, it's gonna start boiling, and that's when we can get the droid to rescue the Jedi.
I thought for the entire time that he was setting him up because I thought as soon as that pot boils, then everybody, all the Empire is gonna know where he's at, and they're gonna go after him. And so I thought that the Wanderer was like, I thought he was setting him up to be captured, to be like, you better have him done, or else they're gonna find you, and they're gonna get you. But it was kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a fun little twist. Oh, also how like that little trick he plays on the Sith at the end. He puts his lightsaber on a statue through water, so she thinks that it's him, and then just like stabs her from the behind.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know,
so
man.
much good like imagery of like the idea of just like a secret little like meditation place under a waterfall or
Yeah.
like a statue. It was like it probably just exists in the world. It definitely does.
Oh yeah.
It's one of those things where like so many like so many things in Star Wars are just things taken from cultures, and
Mhm.
people like fans are just like, this is so cool. Like this is like, and it's like it's literally like real life.
It's literally real for
Which like
people.
so which like there's multiple ways you could look at it, multiple ways of like it's not cool of Star Wars to not hire people from these cultures to tell these stories, which is true. And it's cool that Star Wars Visions is like correcting some of that. But also like in terms of like going beyond just loving this fandom that we're in, like we can also just appreciate the world we live in.
Yeah.
Like like if you like uh I was thinking about this yesterday because as I told you off air, I was watching Dancing with Wolves, um, and sort of the hypocrisy within my own self of like talking about the Mandalorian and thinking that just pointing out how interesting it is that they play with the Tusken Raider characters and what that does for Western tropes with Native Americans. But
Yeah.
it's like Native Americans are real. This is not just like this exotic like fake archetype. It's like you should engage with stories that are like the people in real life. Um, and I realized that within myself when I was watching it. So, tangent, but you
We
pointed
love
that out,
tangents.
and I love. Star Wars should get us to what the main point is. Star Wars should get us to be interested in stuff that's not Star Wars.
Yeah. I also love these episodes where beforehand you go, man, I'm a little tired. You might have to lead these conversations. And then you get in and you're like, this, tangent, this. And it's just like, there's Christian. It's all good. I never get worried whenever you're like, you may have to lead this conversation because I always know this is just how you're going to be. As soon as you start recording, you just get into it. All you need to warm up.
Look,
Um,
Dances with Wolves is it's got some problems probably, but I think it's pretty good.
okay. I've never seen it. I have no idea. All right. So shall we move on to episode 2?
Um, the one last thing I would say is the elderly like friend that's helping out Ronan.
Mm-hmm.
Really cool. I like that they use the Celest. What are they called? Celestin species.
Yes.
Sprig. I don't know. I like that species.
Are we going to?
And also there's a book based off of the Ronan character from this short.
Oh, heck
You didn't
yeah.
know that?
No.
It like just
I
came out.
I want it.
Yeah. So we should probably get it and read it at some point.
We should. Absolutely.
It's it also apparently is very much like defined as not canon,
Okay.
more so than the show. And I hear that it's also some of the most like forthright LGBTQ representation in Star Wars, which is lovely. It's got like the main characters, like the Ronan character and the antagonist Sith character, are both queer. So I just bought an expensive book last week, so I don't know if I'll be getting Ronan soon, but it's on the radar.
Yeah, it's on the list for next up.
Especially because like I have so many other unread books that like
Me too.
it's only gonna delay it
I
further.
still haven't read Light of the Jedi, so it's okay. I bought that book like 6 months ago. All right. Tatooine Rhapsody. I read the title, still could not have predicted that this would be about a band. Um, yeah,
Much less pop punk.
yeah. At first, I really didn't like this episode. It's like this is really dumb. Like I was like, this is gonna be the one that's for kids. But by the end of it, I was like, okay, I like this. Like, why do I like this so much? Oh, they have names and I can't remember them. Hold up, I gotta go on to IMDb and remember their names. Um, Jay being the main character. Yes, he dude, okay, when you watch all 9 episodes in like one day, all the names just like mush together and I forget all the names, but I remember the faces. So anyway, Jay is a ex Jedi Padawan who was found by um I guess he's related to Jabba. He's one of the Hutts.
Yeah.
Um,
His
yeah,
his character name is Gee. In my head, it's just Rod of the Hut in the Clone Wars movie.
his name is Geezer, full name, according to IMDb.
It just goes by Gee though.
I don't know. According to IMDb, his name is Geezer. And then he finds him, starts a band, and their goal is to be the best band in the galaxy. Um, Also, if you didn't know, uh, Jay is played by Joseph Gordon-Levitt in the English version, so that's, I guess, pretty cool if you're into that. And Tamara Morrison does play Boba Fett in the English version because like I said, I originally I watched this episode in English, and I was like, wait, that's actually Tamara Morrison, and I was very surprised by that. Anyway, but yeah, so their main goal is to be the best band in the galaxy until Jabba wants to get payback against Geezer for, I guess, abandoning the Hutts or something. Not really explained. He's kind of leaves the Hutts, I guess. That's the
Yeah.
big deal. Sends Boba after him and sentenced to be executed until they convince Jabba to instead be their sponsor for their band by playing in the pod racing arena.
Okay.
This is the least Star Wars episode.
You've
I
seen
think
Lemonade Mouth, right?
I have seen Lemonade Mouth.
How is it any different? How is it any less joyful?
It's not. That's the thing. Like, I like the episode. It's the least Star Wars episode.
You saying you never wanted to see what a Star Wars band would look like.
I never said that. I've thoroughly enjoyed seeing a Star Wars band. I just
All
think
right.
that it's not at all what I expected from Star Wars Visions, and
Yeah.
I'm glad I didn't expect it. because I thought it was actually very good.
Okay. That's cool. I think there were definitely some translation issues
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
and I don't know, it was the second episode, so I was still like not fully aware of like what this whole series is gonna be. So I thought some of the dialogue was a little weird, and like the opening of it makes it seem like it's in the Jedi Purge. So like
Yeah.
there's always those questions about canon, I guess, that at the first viewing I cared about. Not anymore though. But ultimately, yeah, like the song is just bad in English.
Yeah. I didn't like the song.
Word wise, because like if you're probably just gonna be looking at the words at first. I don't know. But that being said, even with those like tonal or translation issues, by the end of it, I was basically like Java. I couldn't help but tap a tail, tap a
Oh,
foot
like
to the
musically, I
song.
really like it.
Yeah,
Musically,
like
I think the
it's
song is good.
powerful, even though I don't like the genre at all. Uh,
Yeah, me
uh,
neither.
I don't really like pop punk.
I don't really
Aside
either.
from the very small amount of it that I was exposed to when I was a kid, I was not exposed to like the majority of it, so I still have an affinity for it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm happy for people who are cool with it and so they can see that in their Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I like that Jay is so angsty.
I
It's kind of funny.
yeah, I also really liked his animation style. Um I told my friend this and he said absolutely not, but it reminds me a lot of Avatar, The Last Airbender. It's got similar animation style to it. All the
It's just
characters,
cuter.
yeah. Also, I love short Boba Fett.
Yeah.
He's so cute. He's like supposed to be this like super intimidating character, but he's really short and squatty, and it's really funny. Um, so yeah, I love Boba Fett's design. Um, like you said, it was just cool seeing like an angsty teenage boy who's all he wants to do is be the best band in the galaxy, and now he's going up against Jabba the Hutt, probably because he has no idea who Jabba the Hutt is. Because I feel like if he did, then he would be a little bit more like, should we be doing this to Jabba? But yeah, like I said, I think it's the least Star Warsy episode, but I
But
love it for that.
at the same time, it's like the most canon one.
It is. It has the most characters that we know, but it also doesn't feel as Star Wars as the rest. But I love it for that. I love that it. They could have easily been like, okay, we need to make this more Star Warsy, but they chose to like let it do its thing and not care about it being different. And I like it for that.
Yeah. It's got a wonderful CG shot of Mos Eisley Arena.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what it's called? Mos Eisley Arena?
I don't know. It's wherever they did pod racing though, and that was watching that shot and I was like, very well done. Whoever did the CG for this.
It's more digital than the actual pod racing set in the
It
Phantom
was.
Menace because that was practical.
That was practical.
Anyway,
Like
except for like the
the
crowds at
only
some point.
practical thing in that movie. They spent all
You're
their.
still no.
I know, I know. There was other stuff. I just know the running gag about the prequels being that everything is CG. I thought I'd play into it for at least one episode of the podcast, even though I don't agree with it. But
It's a jogging gag.
it is. It is.
But also that shot of what was it? I'm pretty sure there was a shot. Yeah, there's okay. There's all these shots of people around Tatooine on their data pads watching the performance and being like, "Oh, this is
Mm-hmm.
awesome." And then there's one shot of Figure and Dan and the modal nodes looking depressed because it's like, "Oh, this band is so much better than us."
I didn't catch
It's the
that.
Cantina band jealous of this pop punk band.
I
It's the
didn't
greatest
notice that.
single shot in the episode.
I did not notice that. Oh my gosh. Wait a minute. Am I actually gonna have to pull that up right now just to like watch that? Because that's so funny. I don't know how I didn't notice that, but yeah, I love. I don't know why we don't see like people watching their pads more often in Star Wars, but I always think that's a cool. It almost grounds it more. Do they have like iPads? It's like we're like, oh, we have those. You know?
Yeah, there is that fun little part of Revenge of the Sith where Anakin's just like staring at what looks like a Nintendo Switch.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen
But yeah,
that. I've seen that memed so many times of
yeah.
just being like Anakin's playing like Mario Kart or something. All right, I'm switching.
I feel like the perfect sort of representation of that in our like, modern meme culture is like a picture of Anakin on that Switch is like when you're 30, you finally have a job and an apartment, but all you want to do is play Breath of the Wild. Like that's like the millennial,
Yeah.
like late Gen Z
Okay.
experience.
I'm on the scene. I'm watching it. Where is it? I didn't notice that before. They're just sitting at the table and just like, oh. Also, they
Yeah.
show Obi-Wan's house,
Yeah.
which almost makes me wonder if this is canon. Which,
The
whatever.
only thing that complicates it is that they didn't call Guy Rada. Um, which seems like it's so weird. Like the Guy is like the only thing that like connects it but disconnects it because it's a hut we haven't seen
Yeah,
when they
but
could have
like,
easily put in a hut that would connect it.
yes, but which of the Huts would have been in a pop punk band?
I mean, all we know is Rada is a baby.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I was totally picturing not Rada.
Zero.
Yeah, I was totally picturing Zero when you said that, and I was like, I don't think Zero would be in a pop funk band or any
Yeah.
of the other Huts for that matter.
Zero would do burlesque on
Oh,
Coruscant.
oh yeah, absolutely.
Um, but
Please don't make me picture Hut burlesque. I don't want to. Please. Oh, we're supposed to keep this PG on here, Christian. Or at the
who
PG-13, it's the
said
worst. It says the fact that we have kids who listen. Anyway,
um anything more to say about this episode?
I don't think so. It's really funny. Go watch it. It's good. All right, episode 3, the twins. Um, I liked it, but it wasn't like my favorite. I think this episode, out of the first 3, because I never watched the rest of them in uh English, was the worst about English translation. Which, okay, here's the thing. If you have a show that's like originally in Japanese and you're translating it, and you're gonna get someone like Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Brie to voice your main characters, just rewrite. I know you want to like stick with the original script, but there's ways you could have reworded this to like sound better and say the same thing. And it's almost like they
Yeah.
just like didn't try. It's just like, here's the direct translation from Japanese. Go say it. And I was like, dang. So this is the episode that made me have to switch to Japanese because I was like, I can't listen to this cringy dialogue, because the fact that he goes, where are you taking that? To a galaxy far, far away. I was like, no, stop.
Yeah.
Like, that is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life. You need to stop. Oh, I think right after that line, I switched to Japanese.
Yeah.
That line wouldn't be as bad with subtitles. I don't think so anyway. But like the delivery of the line and just how dumb that was. And also the fact that in English, I get that this is a thing in like Japanese culture and they do this a lot in anime, but the fact that in the beginning of the episode she consistently says my twin brother over and over and over again in times where she doesn't have to say my twin brother, and like even the even the
Exposition heavy.
even the robot is like, this your twin brother, and I'm like, stop. We know, we've heard it 4 times. You don't have to keep telling us that it's her twin
We
brother.
were created by the dark side of the force.
I know, it's so cringy. And which is funny because I bet the English subtitles say the exact same thing. It just doesn't come off cringy because
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just so weird. I was like, this is so bad. The translation to English is bad. It's probably not nearly that bad for like Japanese speakers who are listening to it. I guarantee you they're like, this is fun. And it's just us English nerds. Or not nerds, but us English
Especially
plebs.
because like we kind of take Star Wars a little too seriously. Um,
Oh, absolutely.
like sometimes a good sort of refresher as a Star Wars fan is just to watch A New Hope with modern eyes and just briefly think about all the things that are in A New Hope that if they were in a modern Star Wars movie, people would rip to shreds.
Yeah.
Which is sort of a funny thing because like if you talk to people who like hate on modern Star Wars, like you could probably get them to admit that they just hate A New Hope. I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if that's true.
Yeah. Okay. So I just want to let you know, IMDb says that there is a Star Wars Episode 5 reference because, which I mean, it's true, but he says there is no try, only do,
Yeah.
which is also the worst possible translation of that line. Like, I don't know why. It just sounds weird. It doesn't, grammatically, it's fine. It just, to me, sounds weird for some reason. Um,
So you mentioned it's Neil Patrick Harris and Allison Brie. Watch I didn't watch the credits. I know
oh,
it's so
I
not
didn't.
me. I don't really know the voice cast for most of the episodes.
I'm only doing it because I'm on IMDb.
Yeah.
I did not know that it was Neil Patrick Harris until I looked at IMDb. Like I would not have guessed that that's who that was. Um, and then people who don't look to be super famous as the other people. I feel so bad that we can't like be like, oh yes, Junya Inoki played Kare in the Japanese version because like we don't. I feel bad that we don't know who they are because they did a
I'm
great
thinking
job.
I'm thinking at a later date we could go back to the series, do another sort of version 2 episode where we talk about all the shorts but with like more research into the
Yeah,
studios and the
that
actors
would be cool because
and like
like
watch some of their projects to like get a new understanding of it.
yeah,
But we want to
and
get as quick as of a reaction as possible
yeah,
to
and like,
talk
and
about
maybe
this show.
maybe these people are like new too because IMDb doesn't have pictures for any of the Japanese cast. So maybe they're all new, which would be awesome. That this is like one of their first big roles that they don't have a picture yet on IMDb. But yeah, I guess we haven't even talked anything about the episode yet. What do you think of the double Star Destroyer?
Um, it's camp. I think a lot of this could be described as camp. It's exaggerated Star Wars to like the nth degree,
Yeah.
and it doesn't care if it's ridiculous because it's still managing to be fun
Mm-hmm.
as it does this.
Yeah. The story is like is it's pretty simple, self-explanatory. Am is trying to destroy planets with this kyber crystal, and her brother, Kari, does not want that to happen. So he steals the kyber crystal, and then they battle it out. But they have this like really cool dark armor that's powered by like the dark side, I guess. And she makes Am makes it her mission to tell us that 5 times in the first minute of the movie or the show. So they battle it out, and Kare eventually wins, gets away with his droid. Also, he looks it's Darth Vader split into two people. It's very much the style they were going for because
Yeah,
both of
it's
their
Luke and
helmets.
Leia. It's Luke and Leia meets Vader meets
Yeah.
Secrets only the Jedi, only the Sith knew,
Mm-hmm.
Dark Side.
Yep.
Um, it's pretty much straight, just playing the Empire straight though. Like it's like nothing's really changed about the Empire within it.
No, they still want to destroy planets.
And another thing that they carried through from the originals is that it's pretty much just as incestuous as the original trilogy.
Yeah. I'm trying to see. I'm looking
You're not
at.
gonna you're not gonna comment on that?
Well, I'm also looking at the writer to see what else he has done.
We don't have to go into that right
I
now.
know. I just wanted to mention it because I thought if it's something like crazy, the only thing I can find in here is he worked on the Cyberpunk TV series that's coming out next year. But anyway, there you go. He also wrote 2 episodes of this, or produced it. Never mind. But yeah, what do you think about her? Like, okay, this is my question. All the stuff that came out of her suit, were those lightsabers or blasters? I guess they were all just like lightsabers.
You mean like the stringy lightsaber?
Yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a different way of imagining kyber crystal energy or whatever.
cool. Like I said, I'm all about new lightsaber techniques. That was just kind of confusing. I didn't really understand what was going on, but yeah, like I said, this story is not like super complex. So there's not really a whole lot of story elements to talk about, other than the fact that like they
It's ultimately
he does see
it's
the
ultimately
future. I got confused for a minute that he
yeah.
like saw that she was gonna die. When was that? Was that like before he stole it, or was that like in the middle of the fight? He paused and was like, "Hey, look at this."
In the middle of the fight, he and his sister like are in this like unconscious sort of mental conversation where he is showing her or he's telling her about a vision that he's been having of her dying, but she's not able to see it.
Yeah,
So it's like they're in the spirit world or whatever.
yeah,
But yeah, it's like it's just sort of exploring the themes of like redemption, of like fighting for someone you love and like who's gone astray basically. If you're in a way, it's sort of like the cloning, or not the cloning, the cloning part of this relates to some of the Clone Wars stuff of like if you're just naturally predisposed to being a certain way, or if you can change your fate.
hmm
um and you know, some of it reads off as a little incestuous, like just in a different way from Luke and Leia. um
yeah,
they look like Luke and Leia in some ways, or just like Luke and Luke.
yeah.
And it's, I don't know, the visuals are, we don't we don't really have an animation background, so we can't really talk about like why they're good, but they are very imaginative, very they're the highlight of the episode. It's more of a thing where you're just like taken aback by how good it looks,
hmm
and the story is secondary, and all the sort of like weird different angles of Star Wars that they're putting into it, or remixing. The way I see it is like this could just be a story that a civilization tells itself based off of the events of the original trilogy,
Yeah,
sort of like the Legends of Luke Skywalker book, or just like when Rey is like, I thought he was a myth. Like there's myths within Star Wars, and this could easily just be one of them.
yeah. I
If you
agree.
need an explanation, you don't actually need it.
You don't need one, but that's a cool. I like that. Um, so yeah, I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. Do you want to move on to episode 4,
Yes.
The Village Bride? You said that you liked this episode a lot. I did as well.
Yes.
I know a lot of times on the podcast we talk about how we really like people who are just like we like the concept of like the force and nature. At least I do. I really love the concept of like, I guess, the force always being in all things. Um, and this episode is just like a perfect representation of that, and the fact that like this whole like world is just so like one is like the force is just like so strong in within this planet and like binding the people to it. And that's told to us by um I forgot his name, but I think it on the subtitles he's just listed as researcher or something.
Yeah, that's what's cool is that there's not a lot of scientists shown in Star Wars. The
Yeah.
biggest example for me I can think of is in the novel Catalyst, which is on Spencer's shelf because I gave it to him.
Yep.
It's a story about Galen and Lyra Urso, who are reluctantly building the Death Star. Like that's like the biggest representation we've seen of like someone who
Yeah.
is Lyra in particular, because she is scientifically minded, but she believes in the Force.
Yeah. And I mean,
So
we
it's cool
also
to
get
see
it
that in a way in this episode.
in live action. We also get I can't remember his name from The Mandalorian, trying to figure out how to make other Jedi, I guess. But yeah, big scientist man in The Mandalorian as well. No, I love this episode again because it's the struggle of, okay, what's her name? Is it uh I can't remember her name. The main Jedi in this episode. I cannot.
And you've got IMDb open,
I'm
right?
looking at the IMDb and I still can't remember which one of these names is her. It's
It's
either,
probably like it's probably the second actress.
is it just like F or
F.
Von? Oh, okay, wait. It's Von. Okay. Vaan. There you go. I think. Anyway, but you can tell that she's like had like a troubled past as being a Jedi, and that she doesn't want to interfere because she's had bad experiences or something with that. But by the end of it, she's able to like overcome all that like fear, and she takes off her mask and she fights for what she knows is right, which is just classic Star Wars. Also, if we're talking about how it is Star Wars, and I love also another really Star Wars is being able to make sacrifice for people you love, which is in shown by the chief's granddaughter again. And then you also have the two sisters who see things differently and see that you should that wars can be fought physically or just by not being violent. I also forget the sister's name. The example that came to my mind while watching it was Bo-Katan and wow, I can't think tonight.
Satine.
Satine and Bo-Katan was the example that came to my mind about that's kind of that's very much the vibe I get between these two sisters in this episode.
Yeah, it's a small scale rebellion, and it's I like the sort of like push and pull between like the somewhat like, I guess you could call it individualistic, or just like the rugged like desire to not sacrifice your freedom versus like denying your own individual life for the good of your own culture. Like that is like,
Yeah.
it's heartbreaking to watch. All sort of tied together by I don't know what the song is called, but it's a lyrical song in the episode that really makes it unique. Not really anything we've seen in Star Wars. And then I mean, I like the whole like, I like that the researcher is like sort of the one that explains it all. It's so like, it's kind of withdrawn. He's like, this is just like a eventful moment in their history, but I'm just here chilling and looking at plants.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't have much responsibility. I guess it's just what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And he's just like okay with that. This is kind of funny. And then the villains use reprogrammed battle droids.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
Which is very cool. I also really love the Jedi's little heels that she has that make her go super fast. I don't know if they make her go super fast or she like loosened them so she could go super fast. Either way, it was cool. It was very cool. And she like chopped his hand off. Like, and it's just like there's that vivid shot of just his hand landing on the ground. Like, got him. Like, no mas for you. but yeah, I there's so much like good. There's also like a lot of really good like shots in this episode. There's just like really good like big wide shots, especially like during that that like the feast that they're doing. There's like a shot that kind of tracks over the whole place, and I'm just a sucker for like some really good like it looks like it probably took a long time to animate. And that was just one of those really good shots.
And
Um,
the before that was I think it's called the Magina. It's like their culture's word for the force is Magina.
yeah,
And it's like with I don't know if it's everyone or just the princess, but it's like, or if it's like just a landmark thing, but like the ability to like move mountains. I don't know if that's like a
yeah,
something that's triggered by going to that place, or if it's just like a harmony between whoever is the leader and like the landscape. But
yeah.
it's a very cool visual,
It is.
and within the context of this like very sweet, loyal, romantic relationship of it's and tragic relationship where it's just like we're about to get married and then you're gonna sacrifice your life, and like
Yeah,
the feeling of like joy amidst tragedy is I'm trying to think of other places that I've felt that. I guess Lost Stars, the novel Lost Stars,
hmm,
not in like the same, not in like the same like story structure, but like definitely deals with similar things of like cultural duty and romance and being pulled to different sides or like pulled to tragic or hard circumstances. That's something that stands out for me. I think you could also draw parallels to like Padme and Anakin.
yeah,
Um, it just feels it really tugs at, yeah. But also
it
I
does.
think you could even I don't know, the animation looks kind of like a Miyazaki film as well.
Hmm.
Um, which I'm working my way through Miyazaki. We will find times to talk about Miyazaki films on this
Let's do
podcast,
it. Let's
but
do
we
it.
just don't have. We need to get the knowledge up because we've spent plenty of years in Star Wars, but not watching Studio Ghibli.
I know there's so many movies on that list that I need to watch. Like Spirited Away being regarded as like one of the greatest anime movies of all time, and I still haven't seen it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we need to watch those. Yeah. Anything else to say about this episode before we go move on?
Every time I think of the title, The Village Bride, I think of a quote from the musical Company, which is "I'm the next bride." I just felt like saying that.
Okay. Thank you for that input. All right. So before we get into episode 5 through 9, I guess this episode's kind of gone a little bit longer than we thought. We didn't know we were going to talk this long about this show. We kind of expected to kind of go into it, do like an hour long for the whole show. That's not going to happen. Somehow we kept the Bad Batch to like under an hour and a half, and now this is gonna be a two-parter. So this episode will be coming out on a Wednesday. Now luckily you don't have to wait till next Wednesday to listen to part two, because part two will come out this Saturday. So if you guys want to go listen to that come Saturday, we'll be talking about 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So yeah, that'll even be more episodes to talk about there. But yeah, so I hope you look forward to that. I hope you enjoyed the beginning of our breakdown of Star Wars Visions. Just before we get done here, if you want to go find us on social media, you can find us on Instagram and Twitter at Last Star Wars Pod. You can find us on Facebook at the Last Star Wars Podcast. And if you want to email the show, let us know your thoughts on all the Visions stuff going on, and tell us what you would like to see. Are they doing a season 2, right, Christian?
I think so. I don't know.
Maybe. Well, if they are, or even if they're not, you should let us know what you would like to see in season 2 of Star Wars Visions. And we will read those on the podcast. That's laststarwarspod@gmail.com. And last but not least, because I hadn't done the outro in a while, I kind of forgot something last week, a very important shout out that we normally do at the end of all of our episodes. And that is the first link in our description, as always, is StarWarsNowThis.com, which is the largest database that I know of Star Wars podcasts. And it's just run by a really great guy. Thank you, Daniel, for everything that you do for that episode, for that website. And if you guys want to hear Daniel, you can go listen to our episode that came out over the summer where we got to interview him. That was a really great time. So yeah, I totally forgot to shout that website out last week, and I felt really bad for it. So now go to Star Wars Now This Is Podcasting and go find yourself another podcast, because it's always good to have more than one podcast, even if they're both about Star Wars, to listen to. And there's also podcasts that are probably better than ours too, let's be honest. Maybe. So yeah, anything else, Christian, before we wrap up this episode?
Even if they're better, they came out before us. There's not anything comes after us, right?
Yeah, exactly.
This is the last Star Wars podcast. There will be no more.
Indeed. We'll see you on Saturday.